Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is the last live session, I believe, of Poultry Lingo. So we really appreciate, even after today, your feedback or any questions you have regarding the course or anything like that. So feel free to send Dr. Casey or myself or both of us an email with any questions that you have. And then this morning we have Dr. Jacob Lund. I will let him introduce himself, but he is a really great speaker for today's topic on biosecurity.
Before Jacob starts, real quick, one thing, we're not going to give an exam this time. You'll get a certificate after today for completing.
So no pop quiz at the end?
No.
All right.
They did have a knowledge check throughout, so.
Right. Yeah, we did put a lot of that stuff in, so.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we're going to talk about some biosecurity and poultry farming. Honestly, a lot of this carries over to swine, a little bit less so on cattle, but anything where we've got an integrated system where they're enclosed. Just kind of quick agenda here. I'll just go through a brief introduction of myself, biosecurity. We'll talk a little bit about why it matters. What it actually is at the core, and then how do we actually keep ourselves biosecure, and then kind of go through pretty common failures I see out in the field. Before we get too in depth into this, please, I like it if we have a little bit more of a conversation. Please feel free to stop me, ask questions, comments. We're not in person, but you can virtually throw tomatoes at me if I stew off course or something like that, but let's enjoy this and actually have a conversation around it. I don't like sitting up here and just hearing my own voice. So, just a brief background on myself. I'm a U of A graduate. Graduated with a cell and molecular biology with an emphasis in avian disease work, primarily H5N1 high path AI. Since then, I've done a lot across the industry. Started out in R&D and technical services, worked in some market development, started my own company, and I also do nutrition consulting. Currently, I serve as the Director of Business Development for Best Bet Solutions. So that is a very large animal health and nutrition distribution group. We are the largest group in the U.S. doing this work. We cover everything from antibiotics to vaccines, disinfectants, cleaners. We even do paper products. So if you see the brown paper in a chicken barn, we probably dropped it off. I also own and operate a private consulting and research group called Ozark Avian Research, where we do contract research for different groups in the U.S. So our primary focus today is going to be on biosecurity. At its core, it's just whatever measures you take to prevent disease entry and spread. So, just before we get too in depth, can you guys just give me a little background on what you guys do and who you are? And
May, you can go first.
Yeah, so I'm in recruiting. Our industry covers the animal sciences. We have live production desk, or any roles that deals with technical services roles, those kinds of positions, and even sales. So we recruit for the animal sciences industry only in the U.S. and Canada.
Well, as for know each other, I'll just introduce myself. Obviously, I'm Chantel, and Jacob, you probably don't actually know my background maybe that much, is nutrition simulation modeling. Back in South Africa, I managed a large farrow to finish unit with from sows obviously all the way through to growers, and there was a large research unit which is sort of like commercial application of research, and then obviously working at University of Arkansas was in poultry. but I do like to bridge the gap between nutrition and welfare or well-being and health. So that's a little bit about me. And I do pets now as well. So.
I was going to say, Fabini, she's not on here, but I'll speak for her. She works for ATC in Thailand, so she's marketing. And they're looking, she took our swine lingo course, and I think they're looking at how to use plasma in poultry, so she decided to enroll in our poultry course. And then Lindsay and Marlo are technically students, so they both don't necessarily have a strong poultry background, but I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I am the operations manager at Animistic, and I worked for an enzyme company prior to this. Prior to that, I had a little bit of experience on a dairy farm, but I am new to poultry.
And I am the similar manager at Animistic. Pretty much my background is software development, and I'm pretty much focused on software development pretty much directly and automations. So pretty much I don't really have a lot of background in poultry.
He did redesign the design for you. I'm not sure you're using.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, Well, with that out of the way, I'll kind of restart this line. So we're going to talk about biosecurity. So, like I said, it's pretty much anything we do to prevent disease entry onto a farm or spread off of the farm once we accidentally get something in there. The two things that we really focus on are keeping disease out. If it gets in, keeping it contained. Because we don't want to make anybody else's birds or pigs or cows sick either.
Jacob, I'm glad that you mentioned with biosecurity, keeping it contained. So many people think biosecurity just stops at stopping any disease from coming in. But so many people don't consider that if there is a disease outbreak, you also have to take precautions that it doesn't spread either across your barns or across farms. So.
Definitely. Yep. We're all in this together. The U.S. is down to about 2% of people are directly involved with agriculture these days. Small group of people. Most of ours are our neighbors to some extent. So we don't want to get our neighbors' birds sick either, because we don't want them to get our birds sick. So, you get a lot of questions about why this matters, right? There are comments within the broiler world, which is where I focus on, that our birds are pretty cheap. They're pretty easy to replace. Why do we go to all of these troubles? Well, I mean, there's the just animal welfare perspective of it. We don't want sick animals. They're not nice to have. They're kind of a pain to deal with as well at the end of the day, with that many mortalities. So we want to prevent disease because we want to get our animals to processing as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So, the big one that we all think of right now is high-path avian influenza. There's a few other kind of more viral diseases out there. Newcastle being a big one, ILT, infectious bronchitis. All of these have pretty negative effects on the birds, whether it's direct mortality, loss of production, whether it's meat yield or egg yield, depending on what it is. And obviously we've got a lot of foodborne stuff. Again, poultry, the big one being salmonella. So I don't know how closely you guys follow food safety news, but there was just a big, 6 million egg recall from a local producer in Arkansas. Prior to that, Costco had pulled a whole bunch of their eggs off the shelf from another much larger producer. These things, they have food safety and human welfare aspects to them. And at the end of the day, it's very costly too to do these recalls.
Or in the modern, so many people say in the modern world it's fine, right? But is it really?
No, I probably wouldn't risk it. So honestly, if we're being completely honest here, the nutrition of a raw egg is not that great. There's a reason we as humans developed cooking a few thousand years ago. Cooked protein, as long as it's not overdone, is a lot more bioavailable for us. It breaks down a few of the other things too that are not so great to have in there. You don't want to bind up all your biotech with native avid in an egg, so not fun to do. But I think you guys have definitely all seen, because it's been unavoidable for about the past year, egg prices in the U.S. Are sky high. Most of that is due to high-path avian influenza. So if we just look at direct costs from this last year, which is kind of when it really kicked off, we've got, between the layer and turkey industry, we've got $1.4 billion in indemnity payouts. So these are payouts that the U.S. government provides if your birds get hit with high-path avian influenza. Obviously, the U.S. government does not like doing that. It's our taxpayer dollars as well. So there's incentives to not do this. But the reason that they do these payouts is for the containment part that we just talked about, which is, hey, I don't want this to spread. The best and most efficacious way to control high-path avian influenza is a depopulation containment protocol. So we unfortunately have to go in, euthanize all the birds on site, and then compost on site and disinfect before we ever move those animals. It's incredibly expensive. It is not a fun place to be. Even if you're fairly hardened from 15 plus years in this industry, it's not a pretty sight to be on site for those things. If we look at that from a broader economic loss, so what the farmers could have been making, what the integrators could have been doing, it's a little over double that. These indemnity payments are not meant to pay you back for the birds that you lost. They're meant to keep your head afloat so that you don't lose your farm. So it's not something that you want to have. And then obviously, that rolls out into food costs to consumers, which I don't think anyone sat down and figured out what that number looks like, but it's pretty significant. Same thing for strict trade restrictions. So it's not really a biosecurity thing. I guess it is to some degree. But if you just look back at bovine spongiform encephalopathy, mad cow disease, back in the 80s, when Japan stopped taking all of our
80s, 90s.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So that obviously was a big hit with high-path avian influenza. A lot of other countries have stopped taking our poultry exports. So that really hurts companies. To some degree, it actually drives down prices in the U.S., so it could be worse than it actually is. But either way, it does trickle down to everyone. And then I'm assuming that everyone was on this call was alive in 2020. Most of our new diseases come from animals. It's not a very fun thing. We saw the effects of that in the COVID epidemic, probably coming out of bats, or not going to get political, or wherever you think it comes from. But
are you saying it wasn't human made?
Yeah, definitely it came from animals at some point.
Jacob, I have a question about the eggs and the shortage of eggs. How long does it take for a producer, for like the great grandparents, for them to recover from, let's say, like table eggs, or even just like I've seen the price of pet food products, like the egg protein powders and things like that we use in pet products has skyrocketed. How long does it take to recover?
So if you have a commercial flock of egg layers go down, so just the birds that lay the eggs that we go and get at Walmart, the table eggs, If you have a flock that gets hit there, it's going to take you roughly a year to replace those birds. The reason behind that is because we have a very set schedule in the industry. This is not like, like cattle or pigs or something where we can put birds back into breeding stock. So we have, I wish I'd put this on the slide, on the thing, but, so we have what we refer to as pedigree birds at the very top. So these are the birds that we are selecting for genetic traits, whether that's meat production, egg production, health, whatever. Those are the levels that we're selecting at. Below those, we have great-grandparent stock, then we have grandparent, then we have breeder, and then we have commercial birds under that. So all of this system is set up in a way where we are intending to not have an oversupply of commercial stock or an undersupply. When something like avian influenza comes in and knocks out 2 million layers on a commercial layer farm, we don't have the backlog to fill that. It takes a very long time for that to happen. So basically what happens is we have to go back to probably at that point grandparent stock, place more breeder stock. That way we can get pullets, which take about 4 months to turn into to sexually mature and start actually laying our table eggs. So it is at least a year before you can really replace some of these big flocks.
Does it work the same as large livestock, pigs, beef, where you select based on certain criteria and you have, your cull animals? Do they do that at the pedigree level or even the grandparent level? So they do have extras, which they are now maybe keeping.
Yes, but we try not to do that. So especially at the pedigree level, those are very selected lines. So it's not like we want to keep a bird that is like a B grade bird. Again, it's going to take you at the pedigree line. It's going to take you 5 years to trickle down into an actual commercial bird. So at that level, it doesn't matter. But what we end up trying to do is basically just get more breeder birds out there to generate hatching eggs. Those we're a little bit more flexible in that because there's a lot more variation in those. So where historically we would have cleaved off the bottom 10%, okay, maybe we just go bottom 5% now. It ends up dragging all of our numbers down, which if you look at pullet mortality, hen mortality, egg production, things like that. Hatchability on the breeder side, because we've been struggling with all of these respiratory diseases the past couple of years, all of those have gone down. It's not because we're worse at growing birds, it's because we're not placing kind of the cream of the crop. So we can't turn it on a dime very quickly. Even though, so it takes us 21 days to hatch out a baby chicken from an egg. Obviously, if you're looking at pigs, you're 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. Couldn't tell you what a cow is right now. But Casey probably knows. Is it like 8 months or something like that, Casey? Gestation? Oh, you're muted.
From breeding to slaughter, 8 to 9 months, yeah.
Oh, I'm talking about gestation time.
Oh, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days.
Oh, that's a pig. What's a cow?
Oh, sorry, 305 days.
305, all right. So a long time. The one thing that both pigs and cattle have going for them is that the animal that they're processing, if it's a sow or a heifer, can be put back into production. So if you want to if you need more animals, then you just run your gilts back in, or your heifers or something like that. That is not the way poultry production does and operates. We have very clear, we can't, you can't take an average laying hen, just let's say a highline brown, and turn that into a parent stock because everything has been, well, to be honest, completely inbred. so that we have control over all of the genes. We have very clear male lines that we only take male chicks from, very clear female lines or hen lines, and then we cross those to get the hybrid vigor at the very end. But if you look at like a broiler chicken, that bird's never going to sexually mature. It just doesn't have it in it. Those birds are pretty much fated to die in about 10 weeks, is as long as they're going to live because of that hybrid vigor, because they put on so much breast meat. It's going to be on the layer world. They're not really geared up to actually produce eggs that can turn into baby chicks. They're geared up to produce table eggs, which are very different. So that's why we're pretty much stuck in this process with very little flexibility in it. Any questions on this before we go? All right.
I was going to say, any more gestation lengths you need to know?
Yeah. So, let's see. Yep. All right. So what goes into being biosecure? All right. This is what most people consider. All right. I have to not be on a farm for 72 hours. I have to wear boot covers, blue coveralls, and I have to use the foot bath and wash my hands. That is pretty much, if you ask 99% of people, the answer that they're going to give you. It's completely relegated around people and mostly around that downtime piece. Have you been out of the farm for away from birds for 72 hours? I think it's the same on pigs as well. It's a 72-hour phase.
The biggest issue I've had with the poultry biosecurity is, like, when we go into swine barns, if we're not going to shower in and shower out and we're going to go visit finishers, we'll put plastic boots on and Tyvek suits. But the poultry people wear these crappy, terrible.
Yeah.
Stuff that I don't really think stops anything.
No, it's theater. Keeps dust off of us, with the exception that we immediately rip the pockets out of those things so we can get stuff out of our jean pockets.
Or the bird scratches you and you get a big hole.
Yeah, or you have to lean over and you rip the bud out. I do that one a lot. This is what I would, like I said, 99% of people think about biosecurity, but it is actually a lot more than that. So all of these other things are coming into play too. So managing your equipment moves, looking at your feed deliveries, water quality plays a huge part of this. Your vector control, so rodent control and insect control, and primarily flies. No one likes those things anyway, so they're not fun to be around. Managing exposure to wild birds and wild animals. And then one thing that a lot of people don't ever really think of is other ag operations. So if you go to most farms, they have a sign-in sheet that says, "Hey, have you been around poultry in so many days?" And you check no. But yesterday you could have been stomping a row crop field full of soybeans that they put chicken litter on, or you could have, been to a cattle operation or someone's show pig or something like that.
Jacob, what about something silly like you're at your bird feeder or you went to the lake and there was wild geese,
Yep. We'll talk about all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what happens if you have been in those phases?
It depends. This is kind of where you have to use good judgment. If you've been to the lake and you were swimming and you saw ducks 100 yards away, it's probably not the end of the world there. Go home, take a good shower. If you were at a local, pond and feeding ducks, that's a little bit different there, right? So, it's one of those things you kind of have to figure out for yourself. What's a risk? What's not a risk? Again, swimming in a lake, probably not the biggest deal there. Hopefully that you go home and shower after something in the lake so you don't get giardia. But again, yeah, feeding the neighbors or the local pond ducks or something like that, yes, you have better out poultry. So, but at the end of the day, all of these things mean that like, biosecurity is not a thing that we do; it is a culture that we live. So we always, when I am dealing with my customers, I always make sure that yes, this has to be a top priority for you. This has to be something that everything that you do, you think about the biosecurity aspects of it before you implement a new protocol or new equipment or anything like that. You have to think, all right, how am I going to clean this? How am I going to service it? Is this something that if it breaks in the middle of a flock, I'm going to get someone in here to fix this the next day, especially if it's a crucial piece of machinery? Can I get someone in here to fix this the next day? And will they be biosecure? So,
Jacob, with biosecurity being a culture, I think at managers level on all farms with all different livestock species, I think at manager level you kind of understand the implications if there was a breach. But like workers who are on a time crunch, they kind of see it as an inconvenience. And for me, my biggest challenge was educating, the workers at their level, if they're illiterate or anything like that. It's very difficult to get the message across.
Yeah,
yeah.
You hit on one of the biggest common failures that we'll talk about later is the training aspect of it. That we don't train enough, and we don't train the right things. We try on use here's how to make sure your foot bath has stuff in it, and you should do this every so many days, right? We set SOPs, but we don't train the reasons why we have those SOPs.
That was a big challenge for me.
Yeah. When something changes, then there's not the education and the rationale behind why we're doing something that people can make informed decisions. So, I'll kind of go through each of these and just talk a little bit about what's involved in keeping each of these things biosecure. Some of the protocols that we do. I'm going to hit them pretty high level. If there's anything, please feel free to ask, stop me. So, like I said, people is the number one thing that most folks think of when they think of biosecurity. Because of that, it's actually one of the least common vectors. The number of high path avian influenza, of salmonella outbreaks, of basically anything that you can think of actually transferred by people is incredibly small. And it's because we do a pretty good job of thinking about it. We make sure everyone's wearing their boot covers. We make sure everyone has proper downtime and limit the number of visitors on farms. In some cases, we shower in and we shower out. And when you're doing all of those things, it works pretty good. Again, most folks are running their car through a car wash, things like that. But it's all the other things that actually come back to bite us in the butt that we're not watching because we get so hyper-focused on the people aspect of it. Because honestly, it's the easiest one to control, right? You can make sure your service techs have proper PPE in the truck. You can make sure that they have proper downtime. There's quite a few software groups out there that have phone apps that alert your service techs, hey, you were on a farm yesterday. You're not supposed to be on this farm today before you ever get out of the truck. And even on gated farms, they have those same systems where it won't even let you in. I've seen quite a few sow farms, Casey, you've probably seen them, where they have facial recognition.
Yeah, that's Farm Health Guardian. That's kind of really developed some of that. So it was pretty cool tech.
It's really cool tech, and it says, all right, you were on a low health farm 3 days ago. Why are you trying to get into our high health flow here? Like, shoot, go away. So there's a lot of technology. There's a lot of, I would say, industry memory around why we're doing these things. And this is one of those things where, yeah, SOPs do a pretty good job at keeping everything biosecure. And it's not one that me personally, I get too worked up about. Everyone's already doing the right thing. The biggest issue we see is people not refreshing foot baths or misusing sanitizers for foot baths. But that one's a pretty easy one to fix. Any questions on this one? All right. So the next one, we kind of gotten pretty good at this one too. So it's equipment. You think the feed truck is pretty much the primary one. Most companies have wash bays where they just run the feed truck through and it gets cleaned in between farms. They do a really good job. A lot of them have on vehicle spray systems where they can spray a disinfectant directly on the truck with just the push of a button. It's very handy. The other things that get missed though, one of the big ones is applicator groups. So groups that are coming out putting insecticides, rodenticides, things like that on your farm. Sometimes those guys, they're pretty much all contractors. And if they get a little bit behind, maybe they just run right past the car wash, or they just kind of quickly spray the rim of the tire and don't really do a good job. That's one where we have a lot of problems. The other one is actually catch crews. So right now, I live in Arkansas. In my territory, we have a rash of bed bugs right now, which is absolutely miserable for everyone. My skin is crawling just thinking about it right now, and I think I'm going to go burn all my stuff. Yeah, it's the worst. But those are being transferred around by catch crews, and it's because those guys only come in at the end of a flock. So they generally don't worry about biosecurity very much. They're working pretty hard. They're not paid very well. So if you expect someone to go home, clean all of their stuff, vacuum out their van, take it through a car wash for $8 an hour, you're probably very mistaken. It's not going to happen. So the incentive structure needs to be fixed for that to be fixed. But either way, those guys do carry around a lot of stuff with them. A lot of their stuff will have salmonella. If you've got darkling beetles on site and they're not taking care of those, the second those guys hit the ground, salmonella gets inside those darkling beetles. Congratulations, you have a problem on your farm now. It's a big issue. Something that I know a lot of integrators are starting to take more of a look at and say, all right, well, how can we fix this issue with catch crews? Because it's not very good. The other thing is try to have as much farm specific equipment as possible. I see a lot of people who use tractors inside their barns, but then they're also driving those tractors around to their cow field to go dump out hay or something like that. If possible, let's not do that, or let's clean our tractor before it goes on the barn. All right, this is one that on farm you have almost zero control over. But as an integrator, you should have a lot of control over it. So it's our feed. If you think 80,000 bird farm is going to eat about 300 tons of feed in about 36 days, it's a lot of feed coming onto the farm. There's a lot of opportunity for risk there. But it's pretty much all going to go back to the feed mill and biosecurity on your feed mill, whether that's monitoring incoming ingredients, making sure that your feed trucks and all your bins are regularly cleaned, that you have a good rodent and fly control system on your feed mill so that you don't have rats pooping in your feed. That's never fun either. But again, as an individual grower or tech service person, it's almost something that you have zero control over. This is going to be the big boss. This is going to be your live production manager or your complex manager that really has the final say on this one. This is one people regularly ignore, and a very sore spot for me. Birds are going to drink, on average, about 2 times more water than the amount of feed that they eat. So if those birds are eating 7.5 pounds worth of water, in their lifetime they're going to drink 15 pounds. So let's just call it 2 gallons worth of water. So 160,000 gallons worth of water on an 80,000 bird farm. It's a lot of water coming in. Most of these guys are on wells, and well water is, depending on the area, notoriously poor. You can have a lot of E. coli, you can have a lot of salmonella, pseudomonas, all kinds of stuff coming in through your water line. It's not good. It causes a lot of problems. It can cause a lot of diseases. So we've got there was a farm here in Missouri that has, for the past 3 years, broke with avian influenza. It finally took someone looking into the water to figure out why that was. And it was because they were pulling water from a pond. And they were running it through filters, but they were just the standard string filters. They're going to pull out mud, leaves, things like that. It's not going to pull out avian influenza. It's an 80 micron or 80 nanometer virus. It's incredibly small. So, they weren't doing anything to sanitize their water prior to going to the birds. If you've got, if you look around, most broiler farms are going to have cattle on it as well. So they'll have 40 acres. A couple of those acres have broiler barns on them. The rest of it's cow pasture, because a lot of growers are also cattlemen. That's a lot of E. coli coming out of those animals. If you've got a well and it's maybe a little bit downstream from where your fields are going to drain, every time it rains, you're going to have an E. coli spike, and you're going to have an increase in organic material in there. Even if you are running a sanitizer, continuous sanitizer, when it rains and you drive a lot more organic material in there, it's going to overload whatever level of sanitation you've probably set. If you have a chlorine dioxide system that's running at 5 ppm of total chlorine, that works great for a nice, beautiful spring day where it's not raining or doing anything like that. Hey, that's great. If it's fixing to come a big downpour, or fixing to get 4 inches over the next 3 days, you need to get in there and check your system. You need to be very vigilant with it. You need to make sure that your actual sanitation load is capable of handling what's coming in under water. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for a pretty big disaster there. So, any comments on water?
Oh, it's a nightmare. People just don't know what they're doing. It's been a pain in the butt this year.
For example, what you said, Jacob, for the people that were taking water from the pond and they were not really sanitizing it correctly, what will happen to the birds? Do they die because they get the influenza, or?
They died every single time. 80% mortality, and then because of high-path avian influenza, we come in, we depopulate the farm, and they're out of business for about the next 6 months.
All right.
Even
the mortality.
Yeah, it's a big cost because someone didn't want to run a sanitizer for $2 to $3 a day.
Mara, even if it's not avian influenza, like the E. coli, it could cause, secondary infections and just drop production. So even though those birds are still growing, they're just not growing as well as they could have.
Yep, definitely. And you hear it a lot, birds will drink any kind of water. Look at what they do in nature, right? Well, we're not in nature. These birds are very high strung. protein machines. They're not like a red jumbo fowl or a wild pig or anything like that. A water buffalo. These animals have been bred to basically be a Formula One racing car, not a diesel engine. So it's our tolerances for error are very, very small. And yes, they will go drink dirty water, but that doesn't mean they're going to produce as well while drinking dirty water, or even drink as much. So. Mhm. And then the other big thing is making sure that we're doing a deep cleaning. So when I say deep cleaning, normally when we're doing continuous sanitation, we're using something like a peroxide or a chlorine base. A deep cleaning is going to involve high levels of peroxide, something like a 3% peroxide, a PAA, so peracetic acid. Normally some quarters from kind of a D-scaler. One of the ones I really like is edintronic acid. It does a very good job. People will use citric acid. I don't like that because it is a carbon source. Things will grow on it if you're not careful with it. So, and then you'll just have to square one. Oh, this is one of the favorites. So, this is one I've been fighting a lot this year, I will say, and that's rodent control. One of the big reasons that I've been fighting this so hard is that in my area we have a lot of new construction. There are a lot of free range layer facilities going up. They're brand new buildings. They're nice, shiny. They have nice blue tin on the side. They look very pretty. And you go out there and you want to talk about rodent control, and they go, "Nope, my barn's brand new. I don't have rats." Like, you do. You're out in the country. You have birds. You have feed. You've got rats. And we have to go out and do night audits. And they're like, "I've never seen a rat on my property." These things come out at night. They're very sneaky. I know there's been a bunch of stuff. If you see a single mouse, there's probably like another 24 somewhere around. So we'll go out at night, get an infrared camera, and just watch for rats. And it's really gross. It's right up there with bed bugs for me. So trying to train people around this, that yes, you do have rats, and it is a problem because they're going to carry disease, they're going to destroy infrastructure, they're going to eat your feed. I think, what's the number? It's one of these Norway rats can eat about 100 grams of feed a day, which is impressive because if you're on a layer farm, one of your birds is going to eat about 125 grams a day. So if you've got, let's just say, a colony of 500 rats, you've just added 500 or 400 birds to your feed schedule that either your birds aren't getting, or you're just wasting that much feed, and you're definitely not getting an extra 400 eggs a day out of your rats. In many cases, they're also going to be eating your eggs. They're horrible little animals, and wish nothing but the worst for them. But and then they just agitate your birds too. But also, if you have multiple barns, these rats will migrate between barns occasionally. Especially if you've done something at one barn. All right, this guy's bothering me. I'm going to go to the next barn that's 40 feet away. Not that big a deal, especially if you have not done a good job of keeping your grass and vegetation down. I'm a big believer that, hey, if you don't have a single blade of grass on the farm, that is a really good thing. That means there's nowhere for the animals the rats to hide. They don't like being in open spaces, even at night. Owls really like to eat mice. So we do as much as we can to limit entry points. So if you've got some holes, you need to plug those with rodent-proof things. So steel wool is a big one that we use to plug holes. So we'll do steel wool and then put some sort of expanding foam in there. If they try to chew through it, they find that steel wool, and they're like, yeah, this is not worth my time. It's not fun for anybody to chew on steel wool. The big thing on rodent control is doing proper perimeter baiting. Rats will always take the easiest route to food, and mice. Any rodent is going to take the easiest path to food. If I put two fridges in your house, and you're probably going to go to the one that's closest to the couch, right? Like you're not going to walk past the other one to just go get the same food. So, and obviously, rodent bait is.
Rotate your bait.
Yes. Yep. Definitely. Yeah, I think I've got that in one of the common failures. Yep. So rodent bait is generally made to be very palatable for these animals, even better than chicken food. So if they have access to something that is easy to get, and is even better than what they were stealing from you, they're going to eat that first. And as long as Stacey said, you have a good rotation going on, you are not going to have any problems. Your rodents will not make it into your barn, so, because they're generally living outside. If you get roof rats, there are some other ways to deal with that, but they're a little bit of a pain. We just try to keep them out of the house in general. Anything on this one?
The rodents at the feed mill that I audited once, their control method was getting cats, and I was like, that's terrible control method.
Terrible thing to do.
Moving in and out themselves,
Yeah.
just as bad.
Yeah.
Cats are not the solution.
Cats are notorious for getting high path avian influenza. The only good thing about that, which is not great for the cat, is they don't live long with it. So at least they're not spreading it that far. But the cats are not a good way to kill rats. So perimeter baiting is pretty much the way to go. The other one, insects. So on most farms, your biggest issue is flies. They can carry avian influenza, they can carry salmonella, E. coli, and ILT. Basically anything that a chicken can get, these flies are going to get it. It doesn't hurt them. They just carry it around because flies are kind of gross. And they have even more so than rodents, they have very much a propensity to move between farms and barns. They're going to go wherever the wind blows them, and they're going to carry whatever they last ate. They're really, really gross. Darkening beetles are excellent reservoirs for salmonella. If they're in your litter, that salmonella is going to be there until you get those bugs gone. You can clean out the litter as good as you want. As soon as you get new birds in there, the darkening beetles are going to come out of the walls, get back into your litter. Congratulations, you have salmonella all over again. The number one thing on managing insects is let's prevent breeding grounds for these things. Litter being a big one. Don't have any standing water sitting around. If you do, make sure it's cleaned out as often as you can. We use fly traps. We use fly bait. Use your chemical insecticides. Rotate your classes. So don't consistently use a pyrethrin base. Move that with a spinosad or a neonic or something like that. Because these things do really build up resistance pretty quickly. So we're looking at about a 3-month rotation normally throughout the year with different classes of insecticides. This is one, again, I have a lot of problems with it, with getting people to do things properly. They think, I've got chickens, I should have flies around, right? That's just normal. But that's not at all the case. We should not have any flies. If you see more than a handful of flies on your property, you should definitely be doing something about it. I didn't put it on here, but one of the cool things that has really taken off in the past few years is actually parasitic wasp. So if you want to look it up, Tunafin produces them. They have these tiny little wasps that actually lay eggs inside the maggots, and then they hatch out. It's pretty gruesome, but I don't like flies either, so I'm okay with it. So, but it's good.
How do you manage a farm, like a turkey barn that's curtain sided?
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing is you're putting chemical insecticides wherever they're landing. You're giving them a good food source in the form of fly bait. You're putting out fly traps, whether that's sticky tape, some of the more chemical stuff, those terrible little jugs that smell like rotten death, that they fly into and can't get back out. Yeah, I mean, there are ways to handle it and handle it properly. So, again, keep your vegetation down. Most of these things during the days, middle of the day, they're sitting out in your vegetation. If you've got tall grass, that's where they're hanging out. And then as soon as they get a convenient time, they're going to fly out of there and come into your barn and potentially infect your animals. So. All right. Wild animals. This one is probably our number one vector for high-path AI. Primarily waterfowl, but also turkey vultures this year have been a big problem. It's been pretty brutal. This one, it's not like you have a lot of direct control over it. I know there are some things out there. There's people pitching drones, the big laser systems that you'll occasionally see. That one did try to blind me a couple weeks ago. Those are good. They probably help a lot, but they're no alternative to just doing things properly. The big one, let's limit natural habitats. Don't let don't let any places sit that are good places for house sparrows or starlings or something like that to come in and make a nest. Don't build your farm on a pond. I've been trying to get people not to do that because, again, a lot of these broiler guys, they have cattle, and so they'll put a pond out in the middle of their pasture, and you look out there, there'll be 4 or 5 ducks sitting on it in the middle of the day. I'm like, well, this is not great, guys. Canada geese are especially bad as we get a little bit more urban areas around our farming, because for some reason we apparently need Canadian geese in all of our little local ponds that have a walk track around them. Properly disposing of mortalities so that you don't have a lot of turkey vultures sitting around your property. These things are eating dead things off the road. They're clearly not clean. They're going to spread disease and everything as much as possible. And again, it goes back to keep everything mowed down or killed. So, the other one that people don't pay, like I said earlier, people don't pay much attention to it is other ag operations. Pigs and cattle, basically anything warm-blooded can get infected and carry our influenza virus, whether that's high-path avian influenza, something low-path like an H2. They're going to be able to carry that. Cats are a big one, and apparently mink is quite insane for influenza. But so it's not always possible, but when we're building farms, let's try to plan that, hey, we're not putting something right next to an existing farm, whether it's poultry, whether it's pigs, cows, whatever. And let's limit our exposure from cattle, because over the past couple of years, it's clearly been an issue with our high-path AI. I recently visited a farm, brand new farm. Someone had decided that they wanted to start a chicken farm, layer farm, and that's great, all good. They had an old grow finish pig unit that was about a half-mile away on their property, and they said, that's been shut down for years. We're not going to do that anymore. So that's a good idea. I had someone call me from that company and they're like, hey, what do I need to do? Because they opened that that swine or that grow finish unit back up. And so now a half mile away, they have a grow finish pigs, so big pigs with long-lived layer birds. And I said, you gotta pick one of the barns and light it on fire. That's pretty much what your option is there. I think they're still working through that. But either way, a lot of these growers do like to work on their own, against their own self-interest. When you can't do it, you have to be extra vigilant on everything. So your rodent control, your fly control. We've done some groups that were sanitizing incoming air. Had a group that, for some reason, put a pedigree farm right next to a major highway where both turkeys and broilers are being carried on a daily basis for processing on a live haul truck. So they put that there. They didn't consult the guy that was going to run it. He was hired like a week before it actually started up. So we had to go in, retrofit a whole bunch of stuff, put in sanitation units where we can somewhat at least sanitize incoming air, running through cool cells or fogging units, so that we have some degree of control over what's coming in the air when they're having vet barns. So it's not easy. It's always a difficult workaround, but if done well, it can be effective. So, all right, I'll just go through a few of the common failures that I see out in the field. The biggest one is just improper disinfection. Either people use the wrong dilution, they don't refresh it enough. So if you're looking at foot baths, those foot baths should be remade every single day. If you're using the quat glute combination, potentially even more if you're using some kind of an oxidizer like a Vercon S. They don't last long. They're not overly stable in a diluted form. The other one I see a lot is when people are disinfecting after a washdown, they do not let anything dry before disinfecting. You should clean, dry, then disinfect. And it doesn't make sense on the face of it. You would think, oh, it's already wet. It's going to help spread the disinfectant around. That is not at all the way it works. We're already diluting these things. I'll just use Viracid as an example. So the recommended dose rate on it and everything that's on the label claim is at a 1 to 256 or 1 to 384 dilution. If we're doing something at a 1 to 256, we're spraying disinfectant on there. We're like, hey, this is great. It's going to kill all of the high-path influenza and the bordetella that we've got. And you're spraying it on something that is wet. And let's just say it now basically doubles the dilution. So everything's labeled for killing at 256, but now we sprayed it on something that's already wet, so you're diluting it, and now you're at a 1 to 512, and it's no longer effective. It's very difficult for people because people don't have patience to sit there and watch paint dry or water dry on your truck. But it is very key to doing this properly. If you cannot wait for your car to dry or your wheels or anything like that, then you need to think about it. All right, well, maybe I just have to dilute my disinfectant down to 164 because I'm going to be spraying it onto a wet surface. So I have to basically spraying on a concentrate that will be diluted on my surface. It's a difficult thought for people to get around, but that's why I say it's always easier just to make sure everything's dry. Lax rodent and insect control. I talk to a lot of people that are like, I'm doing a good job. I'm on a schedule. That would be great if rats and flies were on a schedule too. Do I need to wrap it up, Katie?
I'm sorry, I have a hard stop.
So noise. If you're doing it every 2 weeks, but you still have rats around, you need to up your dose, your schedule in. And proper mortality disposal, I already talked about that. Daisy just popped off. right, you guys are stuck with me for a while. I'm going to rant for a little
Thanks,
longer.
Jacob. I also have to pop off, so feel free to
Okay,
keep those two.
sounds good.
All right, thank you.
All right. And then the biggest one I always see is just complacency. It's these groups, especially we get to the late summer. Summer is always best for disease, right? You get a lot of ventilation. It's hot outside. You get a lot of sunlight. Sunlight's a great disinfectant. And so we get to August, September, and they're like, man, we've been going for 4 months and we don't have any problems. And so you get a little lazy. You're like, well, I don't have any problems. I won't do my foot bath today. Or, it's fine if I don't wash my truck, because we don't have any problems in the area. And that's when it comes back to bite us. And that's when we have the most issues. If we look at something like infectious laryngotracheitis, ILT virus, that has about a 2-year turnaround time. So we have a big outbreak. Everyone gets really, really good on biosecurity around it and vaccinations and everything else. And then they'll go, you know what, we haven't had an ILT break for 18 months now. So I'm going to back off vaccinations. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and get a little bit lazy with it. And it comes back in full force. And I mean, I think that's just the nature of it, right? The biggest thing I have trouble teaching biosecurity to people about is if you do everything right, nothing happens, right? If you're doing all your biosecurity, you won't have diseases. Not to say you won't completely have diseases, but they will be few and far between. You won't have any major issues pop up. You're not going to have a bunch of dead birds all over the place. And so it's very easy to get complacent because, hey, you're not doing anything. It's the same with vaccines. If your vaccination protocol is good, nothing happens. And then you go, well, why am I spending all of this money on disinfectants, on PPE? Why am I spending all this time in a car wash? Why I gotta hose everything down with cleaner and disinfectant? But again, it's because you're doing everything, nothing happens, and it's not very exciting. So it is a hard concept to get through people. But again, this is why we're doing training, and that training should always include a why we are doing things. Don't tell people, hey, you have to spray it with, this thing with Viracid at a 1 to 256 dilution, and leave it at that. You have to explain why. All right, why are we using the dilution that we're doing? Why are we spraying it? What are we trying to defend against here? Why are we having to use foot baths? I'm stepping in and cleaning my shoes off before I go stomp around and chicken poop, that kind of stuff. So people generally respond well to being told to do things if they're told why they're doing these things. And then that, again, let them make their own decisions in the future about, okay, well, I know there's a lot more disease in my area. Maybe, you know what, I'm doing X, Y, and Z to prevent disease. Maybe I do X, Y, and Z and back to A or something. I don't know. Maybe let me step it up a little bit. Let me do it a little bit more frequently. But if they don't know the why, then they can never get there. They're just going to go through and do a checklist, which is the worst thing possible for biosecurity.
I think that it's something that should be considered like a checklist of the things to do, right? Because I can see that there are a lot of stuff. The water thing, the loss control, like the washing, watch out. I mean, I haven't seen how it's done, but I guess that every farm has to have these checklist type, right?
Yeah. So I mean, everyone should have a checklist, but that checklist should not be the be all end all. I know a lot of groups out there and a lot of growers that will, hey, I don't know why I did this. I checked all of the boxes on my checklist. Okay, well, you had some mitigating circumstances that you knew about, but you didn't do anything to defend against it. So, yeah. Any questions?
I do have a question, just before we wrap up. With biosecurity, I think I believe it's different when it comes to an open or like free range kind of production, and when it comes to a closed type of production as well. But which is more difficult to manage in terms of biosecurity?
And the free range is definitely more difficult. I mean, the birds are, in some cases, going out into the woods where other birds are and things like that. So that does get a little bit difficult. One of the nice things about most of those is that at least there are fewer birds on the premises. So if you
But
look
is
at
there
it,
like
yeah.
is there like a difference when it comes to like bird immunity?
Yeah,
when it comes,
honestly, a little bit, yes.
okay.
Most of the birds that are getting some outdoor access, they're just like you and I. You go outside, you get some fresh air, you get a little sunlight. You're probably going to be a little bit healthier than if they just sit here in front of this computer inside all day long. I mean, there's a lot of truth to, yes, the birds are healthier, they're happier, they're getting a little bit of exercise, comes in a loss of production, but hey, if the people are willing to pay the premium for it, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with it. But yes, I mean, so I would say on most of these things, on the free range thing, we can't control this, right? Like, I have zero control if a duck flies over and poops near my bird. But all that means is I have to be extra vigilant about everything else on the list. So I have to, I want to make sure that my water is sanitized properly, that I'm not exacerbating anything by bringing problems into my feed, that I'm not moving equipment around. It's been a hard lesson for a lot of people because if we go back to the list of everything that we've been doing, they go, oh, you know what? I can't control this one, so why do I need to bother about these other ones? But no, that's not the way it works. It just means you need to be extra vigilant about these other ones because you already have one problem. Don't give yourself another 10. Yep. Yeah, the free range thing, we surprisingly haven't seen as many health events as we thought we would with those. Again, they're smaller. When they do happen, we only lose 15 to 20,000 birds versus a commercial layer farm where we have 2 to 3 million birds on it. So they're not as big of an impact. It's easier to depopulate those without a huge financial loss, and a little bit easier to control, honestly.
I have no more questions.
Okay. Well, I will send these slides to Casey. You guys feel free to have them, use them, steal them, do whatever you need. So.
Thanks, Jacob.
All right. Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.